Why did you name your company that? Like, because looking at it, Mailbox Money, no one would think about property at first glance.
Yeah, so mailbox money is just slang for monthly income every month. And that's when I first started, there was less ACH. So you actually collected the checks and brought them down to the bank. And now it's all automated digitally, and you just look at your account monthly to make sure it's there. But it's a monthly income. And so mailbox money, every month a check shows up. It's just a slang term for passive income. And my friend said it. He's like, says, "Oh, you're creating mailbox money." And I said, "I'm going to use it. That's amazing. I really like it. It's catchy. It's easy to remember."
So you're the good mailbox man that brings good tidings, not the one that
I don't bring bills. I bring checks. I don't bring bills.
Welcome to the Bricks and Banks podcast, where real estate meets real wealth. Whether you're building from the ground up or stacking your paper to the ceiling, Steph breaks down property power plays and money moves you can act on. From first-time buyers to seasoned investors, this podcast is your blueprint for financial freedom through real estate, business, and investment. Subscribe now. It's time to build your future. This is Bricks and Banks with Steph.
Before we dive into the conversation, I want to let you know that this episode is a paid partnership with BetterHelp. You know what's interesting? We all have these patterns in our lives. The ways we react when we are stressed out, hurt, or disappointed. Maybe shutting people out or walking yourself into exhaustion. Or that voice in your head that says you're not good enough. For me, it's shutting people out. And here is the thing. We know that these patterns aren't helping us. We can see them clearly, but breaking them, that's a completely different story. I used to think I could just power through on my own, that time will heal everything, or I just needed to be stronger. But the truth is, some cycles are nearly impossible to break on your own. Not because you're weak, but because you're so close to see the full picture. That's why having outside support, real professional support, becomes a game changer. When you have someone who is trained to help you understand why these patterns exist and give you actual tools to help change them, everything shifts. You're not just surviving anymore, you're actually on your path to healing. That's why I'm partnering with BetterHelp today. BetterHelp is on a mission to make starting therapy easier. They will connect you with a credentialed therapist who is trained to listen to you and give you helpful, unbiased advice, ensuring confidentiality throughout the process. You just get to fill out a questionnaire and you'll be matched with a therapist as soon as possible. And if that's not the right fit, don't fret. You can easily switch therapists at any time at no extra cost. To get started, head on to betterhelp.com/bricksandbanks. That is betterhelp.com/bricksandbanks to get 10% off your very first month of therapy. I'll make sure to leave a link in the description so you can get right on. Breaking the cycle starts with one step, and this could be yours. Going to therapy is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of strength. BetterHelp makes therapy simple with 10% off your first month of therapy to help you get started. So what are you waiting for? Remember, you don't have to do this alone. A problem shared is a problem half solved. Welcome to another amazing episode of the Bricks and Banks podcast. Today, I'm joined by an amazing guest. I always have amazing guests, and this is joining me from Dakota, United States. Dusten Hendrickson is a man with many caps. He's not just your typical real estate guy, but he's a leader who has proven that real estate development can be profitable, purposeful, and deeply transformative. I want to make sure Dusten is the CEO and founder of Mailbox Money. He's a visionary real estate developer who has spent more than 20 years creating sustainable, wellness-centered communities while addressing one of America's biggest challenges, affordable housing. Through strategic land selection, innovative design, and high-yield syndication, he has helped investors generate true passive income while delivering real value to families and communities. Dusten, it's a privilege to have you on the pod today. Welcome.
Thanks for having me, Stephanie. I appreciate it.
Your life is your work. The work you've done so far over the past 2 decades is centered around families and communities. What was the driving factor? Why did you focus to serve these people, families and communities? Why not serving the big boys, the investors and the big players?
Well, one, I don't really know any big investors or big boy players, and I'm just in my community, and it was easy for me. It's very natural, and I really like to serve and help people. So I guess if maybe the investors asked me to help them, I
Yeah.
would help them more, but I also don't really like being told what to do, so I like to do whatever comes naturally, whatever feels best. And I feel that humans are made to serve other humans. And so that's what I like to do.
And that's amazing. Like you're coming from a place of servitude. But before you started real estate, how was your childhood like? What was it's like growing up for you in your family? What did that look like? Is this what you had always wanted to do, or did you have to pivot at some point?
Honestly, I did not think about doing anything when I was a kid except for having fun. I had a very fun childhood.
Amazing.
Well, I ended up working a lot though, and I was
Okay.
always around people, very social. I don't remember being around parents a lot. So I was a typical these 90s kid where I grew up in the 80s and 90s,
Yeah.
and we did all the things that they talk about in suburban America where you leave your house in the morning and you come home at dusk and you drink from the garden, the water hose, and you play baseball outside. There was no cell phones or anything. And MTV was just starting, to play videos. So that's what I remember is always having fun. So I didn't really think about work.
Nice. And how did that shape where you are today? Like your very first real estate deal. How did your experiences lead up to that point where you're like, okay, I want to do real estate and I'm not doing it just for myself. I'm doing it to serve people.
I would say at first I didn't really necessarily do it to serve people, but I
Okay.
learned that that's what I was doing. And I saw that people really appreciated the real estate that we built. People love to live in brand new homes. And once I learned that, we started building more and more and more real estate faster. So the first one I built because I wanted to live in one side of it and I wanted a house. And then we rented out the other side of a duplex. And so
Okay.
the feedback we got from the first students that lived in there was that they really liked it. And so we started building more, and everyone seems to really love living in brand new housing.
Nice. I love brand new housing as well, like brand new spaces. When I moved to England, I was like, okay, no, I need to stay in a brand new apartment because the bulk of the apartments we have in England are like the old builds that had been refurbished. So the inside looks nice and modern, but the outside looks dated. The typical UK brick wall
Yeah.
design. I never really liked that. I liked the high-rise apartment style building, and that was what I set my eyes on. However, you're the CEO of Mailbox Money. Why did you name your company that? Like, because looking at it, Mailbox Money, no one would think about property at first glance.
Yeah, so mailbox money is just slang for monthly income every month. And that's when I first started, there was less ACH. So you actually collected the checks and brought them down to the bank. And now
Okay.
it's all automated digitally, and you
Automated.
just look at your account monthly to make sure it's there. But it's a monthly income. And so mailbox money, every month a check shows up. It's just a slang term for passive income. And my friend said it. Says, "Oh, you're creating mailbox money." And I said, "I'm going to use it. That's amazing. I really like it. It's catchy. It's easy to
Yeah.
remember."
So you're the good mailbox man that brings good tidings, not the one that
I don't
brings
bring
bills.
bills. I bring checks. I don't bring bills.
So can you share about your first deal? Like what was that first deal like? That moment that you're like, okay, this is what I want to do long term. This is what I want to continue doing for the rest of my life.
So I don't really think of that in terms of I want to do this for the rest of my life. I always
Okay.
think of it, what do I want to do today? And then we end
Mm-mm.
up scaling and growing and making it bigger. So I don't know if I want to do this for the rest of my life, but this is definitely what I want to do now. The
Okay.
first deal was a duplex, and my mother was interested in buying a duplex, and we tried to buy a duplex and it was so expensive we couldn't buy one. So we decided to build one, and I provided the labor She provided the credit to sign on the debt.
Nice.
What I do remember is having to reach out and get mentored from many people on how to do the process. But I was young. And so when you're young, you're not considered competition. So everyone wants to help young people because they're not a threat at all. So when you're young, it's easy for everyone for you to ask and reach out and be helped by
Exactly.
everybody. And I remember doing that. And I remember having to do a lot of things multiple times because we didn't know what we were doing. So we were learning everything. But I was well connected to all the people in the industry, the building industry, because I was a roofing contractor. So I was up on the
Oh.
roofs, and I found myself liking the design of interiors more than the actual roofing business itself. So I started pivoting more and more into building homes and keeping them and renting them. And I built a lot of homes for a lot of custom homeowners, but they were never very appreciative. And so that kind of burned me out, is all the complaining about every
Oh.
little aspect of the house. I mean, not everyone would complain, but that was the overarching theme, is you remember the people complaining, you don't remember the compliments as much. So I moved into mainly rental real estate. People don't complain about rentals near as much because they're not purchasing it. So they don't
Yeah.
expect it to be perfect. And there's a lot more appreciation there. So that's why I pivoted fully into rentals.
Amazing. And I know that's when it comes going into rentals, you're involved in the development of the properties. And I know that strategic land selection is one of the core business processes of Mailbox Money. So can you walk us through the decision process? How do you spot the parcel of land? And in terms of location, in terms of the yield and ROI, what are the factors you look at before considering to use this specific piece of land for your development?
Okay, so we primarily target the suburbs where the
Okay.
infrastructure is brand new, and we like to be, and usually the crime is less. So when you go outside of the inner city, the crime is reduced. What we find is that people want to live in the safe location first. Number one is safe location, and then they start adding up all the other amenities. But we like to be next to schools, next to parks, next to nice single family neighborhoods. So we want to put the most affordable product into the least affordable neighborhood. So we basically want to be the cheapest option in the nicest neighborhood. So we look around and make sure that almost everything around us is more expensive than what we are per unit. And we like new roads, new schools, new infrastructure. We like it to be walkable a little bit. It does not necessary, but it's nice if there's a gas station or a Starbucks or a convenience store or a grocery store. But the more things that are walkable near it, the better the neighborhood is as well. And then it's also a feel-based thing. If you go into the neighborhood and it feels really, really nice, everyone else is going to feel the same feeling. So if you go to a neighborhood and it feels unsafe and it feels kind of scary to be there and you don't feel that you can walk around, well, it's going to be harder to get tenants because they're going to get out of their car and feel the same thing when they
Exactly.
go to look through the place. And if it's a sketchy neighborhood, we don't put our housing there.
Yeah. So what would you say in your experience are the important factors you see investors or newbie developers failing to consider when spotting their own land for execution?
I think that new developers tend to buy the cheaper land because they think they can put a really beautiful piece of architecture on that land and people will come and rent it. And I find the opposite. I find locations more important, and you could put a terrible piece of architecture on a really, really nice piece of land and it'll rent easier than a beautiful piece of architecture on a poor piece of land. And what I find is that new startup developers, they say, oh, this is the only thing that's available, so we have to get something. Let's just settle on this instead of taking a little more time and trying to find another piece of land that's better. So one thing you got to remember is if the deal is hard to buy, it's going to be easy to sell. If it's easy to buy, it's going to be hard to sell. So people end up just buying the piece of land that's easy to buy instead of jumping through all the hoops. And everyone knows location's the most important part, but when it comes to you buying, you feel like, well, the perfect location, they're not ever selling it, so I'm just going to settle for this location. And I would say don't ever settle for a poor location because a good location will eventually come around.
Right. That's a very nice strategy. In terms of the land itself, do you also consider other minerals underneath the ground, or you just focused on what's on
No.
top?
Yeah. So we don't, it's a little different here. There's the
Okay.
certain areas that have mineral rights, they actually will keep the mineral rights anyways if they sell you the
Okay.
land. But that's not in our playbook. We are not land developers. So we're only looking to purchase the land and place our product on top of the land. So if there is mineral rights, we would probably just sell them to someone else, or we would say, we don't want the mineral rights, just sell us the land. You guys keep the mineral rights. But mineral rights are not a thing here.
Okay.
There's where we're at, there's also no water rights either. So mineral rights, water rights, all that stuff doesn't really come into play for what we do.
What's your strategy for marketing your projects to investors? Like, how do you sell them on the projects and the deals to make them like, okay, yeah, take all my money. I trust you and you're going to get
Yeah.
this done?
So we find that the actual numbers of the deal have very little to do with whether people want to invest with you or not. It's
Mm,
all relationship based. It's trust building. You have to do lots of person to in person, relationship building. You have to get people to trust you. You have to be transparent, genuine. It used to be a lot easier 5 years ago or so. You could send out emails and you would fill up your deals.
mm,
Everything has shifted and people are less trustworthy. There are less deals that actually pencil. And this is why we do development, because we add a lot of value while we're building the project, and it's a little bit longer term. So it's more risk averse. We're not looking to get in the market,
mm.
flip a deal and get out of the market in a year or two. It's not, it's more of real estate ownership where you're getting tax benefits and you're investing like the wealthy people do. You're not trying to necessarily time the market. You're trying to just own and hold assets for a long time. You're trying to reduce your taxable income so that you can reinvest that money that you saved on your taxes into more assets. And it's more of a generational play. So I'd say getting in front of as many people in person is the
Mm,
key. And most people don't pick up the phone anymore because they think you can just digitally do all this marketing, which we still do. But the
yeah,
key is, how do we get in front of this person? How, we want to invite them to our event. We want to get them on site to a tour. We find that getting them on site to our product is the most powerful thing because you've sort of already built a relationship to get them to that point. And when you
exactly.
walk them through the tour, now they're giving you their full attention and you can create even more of a relationship. Plus, you can point and describe visually to all the things on site, why you do what you do. And you can, if you're an expert, they'll clearly know that you're an expert by the end of the tour.
Yeah. So how do you manage like foreign investors? How do you do the talk for them? Like, do you have like a
We don't
software?
have as many
Okay.
foreign investors, but we would talk to them on the phone and we would give them lots of visual updates through videos, and then monthly updates are sent out, quarterly updates are sent out. So we have a lot of updates to do, and then we would also invite them back, invite them on site to look at the product that they've invested in. But we find that we just don't have that many foreign investors. Usually foreign investors are brought in through someone else that we have a relationship through, and they manage the foreign investor relationship.
That's perfect. I know you've been building green buildings like housing long before the industry made it fashionable. Like you're
Yeah.
focused on the green spaces and nature because like you explained in your childhood, that was what you're accustomed to. So was there a moment early in your career where sustainability clashed with profitability? And how did you manage that circumstance to win and stay in your committed paths?
Yeah, so there's one instance where we would recycle a lot of our materials, and a lot of people thought we were just wasting our time separating the cardboard and some of the metals and the wood. But once we discovered a process, it really was not that hard. And then we noticed that to get LEED certified, you'd have multiple dumpsters. So you'd have one dumpster for cardboard, one
Mm,
dumpster for wood, one dumpster for metals, and then one dumpster for trash. And they did it and they did just fine. We realized it just was not that much more expensive to do that. And it was a very good marketing tool as well. So we just figured it out. we ended up just leaving all the piles of wood in piles, and then contractors that burned wood to heat their homes would come and get that wood. So it actually ended up saving us a little bit of money. So yeah, that was the main thing, is people thought we were wasting our time recycling all the products, but we continued to do it.
Okay, that's amazing. I titled this episode The Future of Real Estate because you're already operating from a futuristic perspective. I titled it The Future of Real Estate, Sustainable Design, Syndication, and True Affordability with Dusten Hendrickson. When it comes to sustainability, a lot of people get confused and it's often misunderstood. In your experience, what do you think passive investors usually get wrong about the risks, timelines, or expectations involved? And how do you reset those assumptions so that they understand the reality of generating mailbox money?
I would say that sustainability is first and foremost financial sustainability, because if something is not financial sustainable on its own and you have to support it with outside funds, it will eventually fail. So first and foremost, it has to be financially sustainable. And then environmentally sustainable, the best way, in my opinion, is to reduce the amount of resources that go into it. So a lot of people think, oh, recycling the water is going to be the most sustainable thing. But if you put a super expensive water recycling system in your house and you don't really use the house and you don't use the system because no one's really there and not that many people live there and use the water, well, then it's not sustainable at all, because you just put all these resources into recycle water when you could have just had a
Use the money for
recycling
something else.
company deliver you water.
Exactly.
That's where I think people get sustainability. They look at the really glamorous things. Like a lot of people think solar panel is very sustainable. Well, it's really only sustainable if you're off grid or if you have a market where electricity is super expensive. So where we're at, solar doesn't make sense because we get most of our power from the dams, and that's very sustainable.
Yes.
And they've already built the infrastructure. So some people could say, well, you're killing the habitat of all the animals that are from the dam. And I'd say, well, the dam's already in place. So all we're doing is using the resources that are there. We're not choosing to kill any animals. They've already made that decision long ago. We don't want to destroy the dam because now you're destroying resources that were already in place. So there's a lot of things that you can argue against sustainability, but my main thing is that we try to reduce the footprint. So we make our buildings as efficient as possible because we are first and foremost reducing our footprint, and that's where I feel the most sustainability is. It also makes it more efficient to operate, and it uses less resources down the road, and it's also financially sustainable. So that's what I do most, is through design, we make it as sustainable as possible, and design costs nothing. Good design costs nothing more than poor design. It's just more thought that goes into the project.
Exactly. Let's talk about timelines. In terms of project timelines, how do you communicate this, and what's the minimum timeline you invest for every development project?
So we communicate timelines fairly simple. It takes us about 9 months for our first project to get occupancy permit for when we can move people in. And then it's 1 to 2 months after that each building is completed, and you can issue another 12 to 25 occupancy units. So we're roughly completing the project after 18 months, maybe even a little sooner on some projects. And then so that income starts building up all the reserve funds. And then at year 2 is kind of when distributions should be projected. But we cannot predict what the macro level economy does. So sometimes rents go up, sometimes they go down, sometimes costs go up, sometimes they come down. And some projects are more profitable than other projects, but it's just timing overall. And so what we try to do as real estate investors is just hold through all the bad times, and then we can sell or refinance when the times are really good. So being a long-term investor, you usually 1 out of 5 years are really good for selling real estate. And so that's what we try to capitalize on. And if someone comes in and says, we want to buy your product for, let's just say $1 million, and it costs us $750,000 to build it. Well, we're going to sell it because now we can 1031 into the next project and build it for 25% less. So now we can build the same thing that we just had, but it's even newer
Yeah.
and it will cost us less money, and we can also capitalize on that. But we always say 5 years. You should always be prepared to hold for 5 years, and more than likely 10 years. If you want to own real estate, you should own real estate for the lifetime. You shouldn't, it's not a stock where you flip in and out of it. And you get a lot of tax benefits by owning real estate. So I say become a real estate investor for the rest of your life, because once you own real estate, you can only benefit from owning it forever.
What about in terms of building the projects? What are the timelines you communicate? I know you mentioned 9 months. Does it take 9 months to build it from ground up?
Yes. 9 months for our first building. And
Okay.
then there's multiple buildings on each site. And so by the time we're done, it's about 18 months. So 9 months for the first building, 18 months for the project completion.
I understand that in over 2 decades of you doing this business, there has been ups and downs, and you'd have projects that might have just make you second guess yourself. So can you share any of such stories of one project that completely humbled you and made you rethink your entire systems, your leadership, and your philosophy as a builder?
I did a farmland deal one time where we lost all of our money, but I did not bring investors in. That was a high risk investment. But I don't think that it made me rethink all of my systems and processes, because my system and processes were good. We knew we were taking a large risk. We put $300,000 down. We spent 3 years on the project. What it was is we ended up buying farmland in an area that was not a good area, and there was not that many buyers willing to buy this farmland. So all it did was reinforce the location mantra that I already knew, but had that farmland been 100 miles to the east, we would have lost no money. We would have not lost any money. But it was 100 miles to the west. It was a little drier and there was less buyers there. It was more rural. And so we learned that location is everything. And there was a reason why it was easy to buy that piece of farmland. So that's kind of where it just solidified the location. And it solidified the easy to buy, hard to sell mantra.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Okay. And I mean, it's nice that you didn't have any investors in the game. You just put your skin in it, so you didn't have to explain to anyone.
I don't bring investors into high risk investments. I just do those on my own.
I understand in your line of business, you lead with faith and you speak openly about it, being a man of faith. So in a world where deals, deadlines, and dollars can create pressure, what does your faith-driven leadership look like on your hardest days, and how does it guide your decisions?
Yeah, so I do a lot of praying. So the older I get, the more I pray about things. And I think God reveals himself in certain ways, and he gives you answers to your prayers and how you need to guide your team and guide the project. It's helped me. It's reduced my stress immensely, because if God doesn't want you to do something, you'll never get it done anyways. So you're fighting an uphill battle that's impossible to win if God's not on your side. So I give all that stress to the Lord and to Jesus. So this is what I'm dealing with. Am I supposed to do it, or is it not supposed to be done? So if it's not God's will, more than likely it's not going to be done. And I don't want to do it if it's not God's will. So I put a lot or all of the pressure. Once I'm aware of the pressure, I give it all to God and just say, well, you can handle this. And if it's not meant to be, it's not meant to be. So when deals fall apart, which they always do, I just don't really care anymore, because it wasn't meant to be. And it's fine. We move on to another deal. And there's just way less pressure when we have 10 deals on the table and 5 of them fall through. That's fine. We'll just put 5 more in their place. Those weren't meant to happen anyways. And God is just helping us. And then also hard times the same way. Well, this is a really hard time. What can I do? The only thing I can do is provide some effort. So that's really the only thing we can do. All of our talents are given from God, all of our natural abilities. The only thing we can do is choose to work hard on it or choose to be lazy. So I just choose to work hard as much as possible. And then if a deal falls through, it falls through, and it's not that big a deal, and you just move on to the next one.
I like the way you put it, because there's a sermon I listened to and it said the Holy Spirit leads us on the wavelength of peace. So if if you don't have peace about a particular project, then there's no point chasing it, because you're just going to be stressed out unnecessarily. And God
Mhm.
said in the Psalms that commit your ways to commit your paths to the Lord and He will direct your paths. Commit your plans to the Lord and He will direct your paths. So it's just simple. Once you're working with God on a project, you wouldn't be stressed out. You just continue to flow, and if you're easy, it's easier for you to manage the chaos because the Holy Spirit is going to direct you anyways. So yeah,
Yes.
that's that.
I like how you put that. That's very good.
Thank you. I know you mentor and you give back, because I know community building, it's big for you, and
Mhm.
you're navigating families. You advocate for families that are navigating autism. How has fatherhood shaped the way you design communities and the way you think about what a good life actually looks like for residents?
Wellness design.
Yes.
So we all kind of react the same way to design, but
Mm-hmm.
autistic people will react louder to it because it affects them more. So they're
Okay.
just more aware of a poor environment, and then they'll voice their opinion. So I've learned, and I'm the same. I'm on the same wavelength as my son. So I understand a little bit more. So when I come into a project and it makes me not feel good, then I know other people will also not feel good. So
Mm.
I want to walk into a project that feels really good, that makes me feel good. And that when you feel good about the building you're in, that's wellness design. And you'll notice that it's infrastructure such as hospitals where they're cold, hard, sterile doesn't make you
Yeah.
feel good. The best coffee shops make you feel good. And that's where the most people are. They use raw materials. They have big, large windows that let in a lot of light. They have good aromas of coffee beans.
Mm.
And then you have just good vibes all around. Those are the environments that are wellness designed. So we incorporate floor to ceiling windows. We incorporate warm wood tones on the floor. We have some warm taupe trim. We have a little bit warmer white paint. It's all white on white, so it's kind of bright and open and airy. And then natural light comes in. And then
Nice.
there's a direct connection to nature. With those larger windows, you have a connection to nature. And then we try to do a lot of landscaping, and
Mm-hmm.
then also noise, so other neighbors' noise. So if you can do sound attenuation to reduce noise transfer between units, that's also
Mm.
wellness design. So wellness design, I've learned, is more critical to humans than most people believe. And then if you can make people feel good about the home that they're in, they're
Yes.
going to want to stay there longer.
Nice. I like the way you described the design and how you navigate things, and what's saying that if you walk into a place and you feel good about it, it's more probable that your tenants will feel good about it. But if you don't feel good about it, then there's a high chance that they wouldn't as well. So
Yeah.
that guides you on how to design the property for wellness. In terms of team building, you being the CEO of your company, Mailbox Money, how do you select your team members? Also, how do you select your builders and your suppliers? What are the criteria you look out for in finding the perfect team members that suit your company culture?
So I also believe that God guides all that as well. So he
Okay.
introduces you to partners. And so
Okay.
you just got to keep your eye out all the time for who is the right fit for you.
Mm-hmm.
You can train for aptitude, but you cannot train for attitude. So most
Mm.
important when I hire or partner with somebody is a good attitude, because you can't teach someone to have a positive attitude. They either have it or they don't. You can influence that attitude over the years, but you want to start with someone that has a growth mindset. You do not want to hire any victims. You don't want any victimization in your company. You got to hire for accountability. And then you can kind of tell if they're smart. They don't need to be knowledgeable in your industry, but they do
Yeah.
need to be as intelligent as possible. And there's some roles that you don't need them to be as intelligent, but the more intelligent, usually the better of
Mm-hmm.
employees they are. You try to find someone for loyalty as well, but mainly positive attitude. And like I said, you can train for aptitude, but you cannot train for
For
attitude.
attitude. Amazing. You can train for aptitude, but you can train for attitude. That's a very good one. So for someone that's trying to invest in the concept of mailbox money, passive income, but it feels abstract to him. It feels abstract. The idea of mailbox money feels abstract to them. What mindset shift do you think the person would have to make in order to get into this lifelong real estate investments vehicle?
I would say you have to learn how to be an investor. And
Mm.
so this is a US stat. So it's probably lower worldwide.
Okay.
But in the US, only 7% of people have an investor mindset, meaning they're consumers. So the main thing you have to stop doing is stop consuming, and you have to invest more than you consume. And so once you flip that switch and you go from consuming to investing in your community,
Yeah.
now you're providing more for your community than you're taking in. And that's the easiest way to become an investor. And you don't have to really think about numbers as much. You just, once you have that mindset, you'll be giving so much value out that you're going to be getting value back in. So it's actually very simple. Just stop consuming all the time and think about others and be an investor and give back.
Yeah, basically having an investor mindset is giving back, contributing to society, because you can't just continue taking. You've been taking since you were born. So if you're going to
Yep.
be an investor and you're going to get something out of it, like you said, it's more of serving than just doing. So when you have the mindset of serving and giving back, it's going to come back to you. That's the
Yes.
mindset shifts.
It's not transactional. So if
Okay.
you're looking to be a transactional investor, it doesn't work out as good. So if you're just looking to provide value, you
Yeah.
will get value back. That's
Okay.
the simple way of, and then after that, you develop that mindset, then you can start, they won't be such a foreign concept, and then you can understand mailbox money a little easier.
So looking with everything you've done and how much you've achieved over the years, when you look at 20 years from now, 10 years from now, what legacy do you see yourself or mailbox money leaving in the investments and real estate world, both to families and communities? What's that legacy you want your name, Dusten Hendrickson, to be pasted on?
I don't really think about that stuff, but it would be more tied toward Jesus than to housing.
Okay.
So it would be, it'd be more, did I tell a bunch of people about God? Did I bring people to know God over work stuff? So,
Amazing.
but housing's easy for me, and talking about God and Jesus is hard for me. So that's probably why.
Okay.
I'm not an evangelist, but it's everybody's purpose to know God and
Yes.
help others get to know him.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. And you're able to use your platform. You're able to even use this platform to let people know about Jesus. And that's very new, because most people would want their name out there, plastered, or put like in a museum that's Dustin Hendrickson did this and that. You've detached yourself from that reality, and you're focused on, I want my life to give glory to God long term. So that's essentially what we're remembered for, what we're able to leave back. I spoke to one of my guests said something profound the other day. Said, legacy is not what you give, is what you leave. So it's not about what you leave, it's about what you give. So you're not just giving people, leaving properties and a bunch of money for people, because these things are going to be depleted. What's important is eternal life, because by the time we're done on this earth, what's waiting for us on the other side of eternity? So if you use your life well and you let people know that, okay, this is the way to go, Jesus is the way to go, that's a much more valuable legacy to live by. So
Yeah,
I really appreciate
that.
I really thank
Yeah,
you for that.
I like the way you said that. Yeah, I 100% agree with what you just said.
Nice. So we're just wrapping up now. Brings us to the second segment, which is the firecracker round. And this is just me asking you like a bunch of random questions and you hitting me right back with the very first answer that comes to mind. So drum roll. So what's one book or podcast that changed the way you lead or build?
Well, the Bible, but I know
Okay.
that that's obvious. So, but everyone should read the Bible front to back, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So a book that's not the Bible would be Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. That's the one book that changed the entire way I think.
Okay. So what was it? What was it for you that's basically switched on your mind?
Accountability. So
Okay.
even if a meteor comes and crashes into your house, well, it was your fault because you shouldn't have been standing there. So extreme accountability can only benefit you and all those around you.
Makes sense. So what's the biggest myth about passive income people still believe?
That it's all a scam. Most people think that you have to work to create money, but money creates money. So the more capital you have, the
Yeah.
easier it is to make money with that capital. You only have a finite amount of ability to work.
Yes.
And it's not a scam because wealthy people all do it.
Exactly. You're doing it. Your investors are doing it. So it's doable. So if you can rebuild any city in the US from scratch, which one would you choose and why?
I've never thought about this once in my life. I would say rebuild any city in the US from
Yes.
scratch. Wow. I have no idea because what would you do with it? Why would you rebuild it? I don't know why. I don't know.
Yeah.
Mm,
Like he basically wants to evolve that space. He wants it to change how it looks.
Houston,
Houston, Texas.
Texas, because they
Okay.
have no zoning requirements and it's all just,
Okay.
although they have built some cool stuff and they have one of the best architects ever in
Okay.
commercial. I would say Houston because I don't understand. I think better zoning creates better cities and no zoning is atrocious.
So
No
Houston, we're
offense to
coming.
anyone from Houston.
Houston, we're coming for you. I think we talked about this earlier. What's your best and worst investment deals? I know we talked about the worst, so we can just share the best, right?
Okay, so the best investment is well, we also did a piece of farmland that we flipped in a
Okay.
few months. So that's why we went and did the bigger piece and then we lost everything we got. But I think the best investment is this building that I'm sitting in now because it taught me scale, but
Okay.
just purely investment, I'd say of the investment that we first created called the Reserve Flats. And that's what our whole affordable housing model is based on now. We pretty much only develop that kind. So we went from developing all this different kind of assets to now we use this one profile over and over and over. And I feel like God just led me to design that, and it's needed across the entire nation. Almost any city with growth could use this product that we're building. And so that was my best investment, the Reserve Flats in Brookings, South Dakota, and it's performed phenomenally well, probably a 50% IRR or better. It's crazy
Wow.
how good that deal is.
Do you guys get to sell your designs to other developers, or you just keep it to yourself?
A little bit, but that's not what we concentrate on. Most of they can come and just take our design. We have let some developers use it and we've helped other developers with their designs as well. But most people don't just copy your design. They'll copy parts of it. They'll try to make theirs better, but there's a little bit of ego there at developers that they don't want to just straight up copy what you're doing.
How do you unwind and reset?
I like to smoke cigars.
Okay.
And I like to watch sports, I guess.
What sports
I
is
like
that?
to go on
Soccer?
dates with my wife, really good restaurants.
Nice. What's like your favorite restaurant to go?
Right now it's probably the Restoration Hardware restaurant in Minneapolis.
Okay.
That's one of our favorites probably.
So what's
But
it about their
I
menu
like
that keeps calling you back?
they have super good Caesar salad with salmon. They have this
Okay.
burrata and peppers, fire roasted peppers with this
Ooh,
oil. And
nice.
it's also in an atrium. So it's in this glass, it's on top of a roof and it's this glass atrium. So it's wellness
Oh,
design and it has a fountain. So you get the sound of
okay.
water, you get the
Yeah.
sunshine, and it's really cool in the wintertime. So you get sunshine in the winter there.
Wow. Okay. I see. That's why it's the best. And coming from a developer, I'm going to trust your judgment on that one.
Yep. It's a wellness designed restaurant with delicious food.
So Dustin, I'm sure a lot of our viewers will be asking, how can we reach you? How can we get you to you? Socials, websites?
Yep. So our socials are under Mailbox Money on all the different platforms. I'm on LinkedIn is where I do most of my social media outreach, where we do it every day and we're giving just real day in the life type stuff. that is just Dusten Hendrickson at LinkedIn, Dusten, not Dustin, Dusten Hendrickson on LinkedIn. And then our website is mailboxmoneyre.com, and that will direct you to all the stuff that we have available.
Amazing. I'll make sure to leave the links in the description so you can just go right there and click it. It's been amazing having you on the pod today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Stephanie. I appreciate it. You're a great interviewer.
Thank you. And there we have it, guys. Dusten Hendrickson has basically broken down what it means to build real estates and make it profitable, purposeful, and deeply transformative. He has rewired our mindset to see that it takes money to make money, but you have to be intentional about it. You can't continue to consume. You also have to give back to society. That's the first way to rewire your brain from being a consumer to being an investor. Make sure to continue to watch this episode and reach out to Dusten and see how you can become a real estate developer and a real estate investor. So till we come your way next week, let's continue to turn knowledge into action and breaks into banks. This has been Breaks and Banks with Steph, and this is me signing out.